which is a little bit more damage focused, a little bit less wave clear focused. Still incredibly good wave clear, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Somebody will put words in my mouth and I'll like...
They'll just cut that clip.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, no, Victor has insane wave clear, but Anivia just late game, just sit her there and she just puts her ult down and denies everything. At this point, I like the Shen ban, actually, from Renegades Bandidos, because they're now on the blue side. So Millennium are going to have at least one counter pick, and that is likely to be their mid laner. So now you don't give them a safe top lane without showing kind of the Graves top again. So the Banditos aren't forced into playing a similar composition. I just wonder what's available. Ryze was up last game, didn't get picked. Okay, Poppy's out of the question. Where does that leave us? Lulu, Tam, Kench are up from last game?
Yep, Lulu. There's Lulu.
Okay, well.
And yeah, Tam Kench as well. I wonder if we'll see him. Usually we do see him if he's up because he's just so incredibly good. Top lane support. He's just fantastic right now. Misfortune is still available. We saw how good that was last game. Millennium are going to pick him up this game, pick her up this game. And Rek'Sai as well. Okay,
so I like this 1-2 combination here from Millennium in some respects. Others I don't. Elise was up. Not that I think she's a must pick when you look at this kind of setup. I think she's a little bit above Rek'Sai, but it's a stylistic thing. It's like, how do you want to play this game? Do you want the added global presence from Rek'Sai, which we know Millennium love to play the split push style? This does now give them options to maybe try and set up a 1-3-1 setup. It does depend on the rest of their picks, but I expect that Tam Kench to get locked in. Probably expect it to go to support, depending on what else gets locked in from the Renegades.
But again, Flex City, so...
Whoa, okay. So, Tam Kench top, Trundle right? support. I mean, both can flip, but that's what I would presume at this point, would be the Trundle support. We've seen a lot of it here in Europe.
Yeah, a lot more Trundle support than we're seeing at top lane, but very good in the top lane as well. If you go up against a Shen, which is banned in this game, but you go against something else, which goes heavy resistances, very good into that matchup. Looking for the next two coming in from Millennium. Already a pretty strong lineup, though, just in terms of picks from Renegades. I want to see what else they do with it with the final two, the AD carry and could be jungle as well. But Millennium, what are they going to answer for that? What type of composition are they trying to build? That's the kind of question at the moment. Misfortune for the team fights.
Alistair's up, and it would be available to Masterwork should he want it. We talked about Alistair and Masterwork and the history that he has on that champion. Last game we did see the Morgana. I didn't think it was that bad when you look at it. I think it was okay. Did the role, suited it perfectly. Also helps against the likes of Tam Kench that's going to try and devour. So it has been locked in as well. So good protective support with the ability to catch as well.
Yeah, just interesting that that would be his choice over Alistair, who is still able to play the peel role, but actually going with this one this time. I guess the Black Shield is very good against like Tam, etc. But Mundo will be also picked up. We'll probably go into the top lane. We saw a lot of Mundo jungle on this patch as well as the last patch as well, but considering Rek'Sai is picked up, probably not going to see AP Rek'Sai top lane.
Yeah.
So
I would almost certainly say no.
Yes, unfortunately.
I know you're trying to jam things in the top lane, Pulse. Whoa, speaking of top lane,
again,
give me a sec. Options of Graves, top lane jungle. So, the most logical one would be Graves jungle.
Yeah.
With then the Tam Kench Trundle discussion of exactly what they want to play. I kind of think it's going to be Tam Kench top.
But then we said that last game.
Yeah,
and they were like, Graves top. So...
a lot of options.
Yeah.
A lot of flex picks for Renegades Banditos, and a fair amount of tankiness when you look at the likes of a Tam Kench, the Lulu shields that come out, Trundle with the ability to subjugate and take away some of the resistances. However, not a whole lot of champions that want to build full resistance. When you look at the side of Millennium, Rek'Sai wants to build some, Mundo wants to build some, and a whole lot of health. So it's not exactly counter picks to a Trundle by any means, still effective against them, but it's not quite the same as like a Malphite where you're like, give me all your armor, give me
everything you own.
Yeah, exactly. You're not like mugging them at gunpoint. You're just like, can you just give me like that penny that's on the floor?
I'll take that. But yeah, so that's pretty much that matchup. We do have the Orianna as the final pick actually. That will be going into the mid lane on Pretty. I actually didn't think his Ari performance was that bad last game.
No,
it was just the fact that he was being focused by the entire enemy team. Orianna, pretty good as a composition. You're always going to have people who are going to be in the front line, so you can position the ball. You don't have like an immediate Alistair jump in, so you don't have the cow ball. But you do have Rek'Sai, who's able to like tunnel underneath. It's not as good, but it's still pretty solid.
But, I mean, one thing is for certain, Orianna Lulu, you just kind of sit there for a while.
Yeah, not a lot is going to happen in that lane.
There's a fair amount of farming that's going to happen in that lane. But you look at the composition overall from the Banditos, as it does disappear off your screen. But I can still look at it.
It'll be back soon, don't worry.
It'll be back soon. We'll take a look at it. One thing I do wonder with the Lulu pickup, with the setup they have with the Tahm Kench, they're working on a Lucian as their primary carry, let's say, with a Graves jungle having damage. It's not the same kind of Tristana hyper carry setup. Lucian does still have damage the later the game goes, but it's not to the same extent. So I wonder if this game gets drawn really, really late. Is the Subjugate going to be enough to shred the resistances to allow Lucian to just kind of plow through people?
Yeah, it's true, but I've doubted Lucian before, and then Bang picked it up, and then he just pented everyone, and I was just like, oh, Lucian does a lot of damage. You can play him and he kills people.
Does. Yeah, but I think
on paper it's just like Tristana hyper carry, Lucian who's strong like early mid game, that type of thing. Spellweaver, very different. But right now with builds that really benefit him, like going Essence Reaver, it's just so good.
Yeah, that is true. I just wonder how he's going to chunk through a late game Mundo.
Probably not.
Yeah,
I mean, no one really chunks through a late game.
Right,
Mundo,
right. Like, but that's my thinking is like I think at least if you had like a Trist, a Vayne, you actually
someone
have
with
that
percent damage.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Like, Vayne is like the best answer since like percent true damage, kind of good at killing anything.
But there's so much is focused on the early game that to make a pick like Tristana, like a Vayne, you can see games just kind of fall away in advance. So I think the pick is correct. I just wonder how it goes if the game ends up getting drawn late.
Especially in this meta, where you have games ending so quickly. Even that last one, we were like, this is going to go on for a while, and then it just ended. Yeah. So, we're still seeing games just kind of on a timer. You just get that one team fight, and death times being so long, you just lose a Baron, and then last game, it was just like, well, we go to another fight, and it's like, oh, we just lost, inhibitor turrets, and then we can't do anything because there's super minions coming in. So, very difficult.
On the other side, though, we got a wombo combo. A little bit.
Yeah, the classic, kind of.
Shockwave, bullet time, bit of Morgana as well in there as well.
Yeah, well, make sure to join the discussion on Twitter using those hashtags once again. Swapping up RNB win and MIL win for Millennium, of course. And we will be getting into this game very shortly. But wombo combo. All you need is a Mumu now, and then you'll have the perfect wombo combo. But getting onto the Rift here, blue side will be Renegades and Banditos up against Millennium. Both these teams looking pretty solid so far, honestly.
Yeah, I would say the same. Looking pretty good in game one. Just the ability for the Banditos to have held out with that last team fight that really set the game up for themselves. But at this point, as we load onto the Rift, I am wondering whether we're going to see the lane swap that we had in the last game. If you remember, the the Millennium actually put 5 people top, got spotted out by the ward, and got their information denied. Yeah. So I wonder whether we'll see something similar. No, well, we won't, because they both spread out, split up.
Yes, they did stress. So, Corrupting Potion onto Alphari. It's one of the more interesting things here. And Graves Jungle. I could talk for days about Graves Jungle, but one of the big things to Stress is just done. It's now a pulse-only cast. But so he's gone Machete first. And I was having a discussion with Deficio in the office, and you actually, about the merits of Machete versus Hunter's Talisman. Yeah. Hunter's Talisman means you can clear the jungle depending on which side you start. Even if you start blue, you'll still have the mana to gank afterwards. Versus Machete, where you clear slightly faster, and you have the lifesteal from the jungle. So you still don't really take down from the jungle, no matter which route you go for. It just depends what your preference is. Impaler's going for the slightly faster clear. Versus the extra mana. Personally, I feel like you have enough mana regardless, but you are kind of restricted to going for 1, maybe 2 ganks at the most before having to go back. Yeah,
because we saw Spirit from Fnatic picking the Talisman route.
Yes, and Trick did too.
Yeah, Trick did too. And when we... Yeah, sorry, it was Trick we were talking about. It was not Spirit. When we were looking exactly how that played out, it was all to do, as you said, with that gank timing. Do you want to do that? Also, just the fact that in a lot of circumstances, because of the way that Graves pushes back the creeps, the lifesteal isn't all that necessary when you kite the camps and when you actually can get the auto knockback working properly. Bottom lane, however, level 2 for the Banditos, and man, that is a lot of damage traded onto Misfortune. This is why you pick a Lucian. Good presence in the laning phase. and make sure it doesn't fall away from you too far.
I argue that point because the small minions and the counts would have range attacks is actually enough damage to slowly chunk you through the jungle through a full clear. And the lifesteal that you get, which is 8%, is actually enough to mitigate that, meaning you don't actually have to use any pots.
I had to go back for a second. I was like, wait, are we talking about bot lane?
Yeah,
Small?
it's like, huh? Machete? No, but either way, it's very small intricacies, and once you get past like the 5-minute mark, it doesn't matter anymore, but
it gives
it's
you
preference.
It gives you insight into our office.
Yeah.
We're just like, well, I think we should argue about this.
But the great thing about...
discussion.
Yes, it is. And the great thing about this current meta and 6-1 is you can both be right. Like, that's how it goes.
This sounds like, you know, how people are like parents in schools are like, for sports day, it's like everybody's a winner. And it's just like, no, the kid that crossed first is the winner, okay? Like, I'm none of this participation stuff. Just,
you can tell what type of parent stress is going to be.
All I'm saying is this is a finals for getting into Challenger. You can't both get into Challenger out of this game, Pulse. So you better be right, okay? First one to 3 wins in this best of 5.
Well, you're not wrong. Mid lane, Pretty, farming away underneath this tower. We spoke about this one in Champion Select. Lulu Oriana is not a very interactive lane, but the bot lane has to flash away spell immune, so we won't get the slow down. Heaver has going to be some gold going over to Masterwork as he gets it from the spell thiefs, but the initial gank from Impaler rewards them with a flash, but Heaver actually flashed as well to get a range for the pillar. So 1 for 1 in terms of the support flashes.
I've never been so hyped that somebody walked near a wall. I'm just like, it's a wall! I mean, obviously, that is the golden spot for a Graves jungle to fight people. Anywhere near a wall, just get that extra explosion, get the quick damage down in the burst. So it is a big factor, and that's really one of the reasons why Graves jungle is good, because you just end up picking up so many fights in the early game near any kind of terrain, and you can just continue. Like, look at that damage. Tell me that's not ridiculous amounts of damage.
To put it in perspective, max rank Q with just a warrior enchant deals around 700 damage. That's a lot. Dyoko heading into the top side. The crab has been taken. He knows he's been seen, but he will be boring over the wall. Impaler knows he's on the timer to get this gank off. Kaze probably not going to go down here, but takes a lot of damage.
Yep. I mean, this is fairly standard for Impaler as well. I've been talking to watching and talking through a lot of games recently with people talking about Impaler and how he ganks in the top lane. It's a fairly easy read, to be honest. He does tend to gank after that 4:30 timing top lane for Alphari a fair amount. So it's one of those interesting situations where it's like, if you can read that, you can kind of play defensively, but he didn't do it in the last game with the lane swap. There are obviously adjustments, but this is one of those games where he goes top.
It's all mind game. It's like he says that, and then it's just like, not going to gank at all.
Now I've said that he's never going to gank top lane again.
Yeah.
And,
it all changes. Dyoko has picked up the Tracker's Knife here. Seeing that on a lot of junglers now. Tracker's Knife is so incredibly good in the early game just because of how good wards are as a resource now. Oh, Heaver getting bounced in the bot lane though. With the E coming out, Hand Tower is fairly low in terms of mana, but Heaver will have to back away. Tosses out a little laugh there. Heaver is actually pretty known for doing this. He did this a lot in Karma when I used to see him.
It's going to backfire sometime.
One day, yeah.
So, one thing to keep in mind from this duo setup of Misfortune and Morgana is if they're both running Thunderlords, which I believe they should be on 5.24, everybody ran Thunderlords, it was before the Masteries changes, you just put down the pool, put down Make It Rain and get double Thunderlords proc, and just go, okay, well there's half your health.
Yeah. There's not a lot you can do about it. K-Draw actually gets a good amount of damage onto Pretty, and the minion wave's pushing into him, so he actually picks up a good CS advantage in the mid lane. Impaler clearing out his jungle, gets the Razor Sharp buff as well as he heads into the bottom lane. Actually not too many I say that, but he immediately walks into a pink ward. That's the worst feeling. And he's Graves and has to clear it so slowly. That is like the worst thing to happen to a Graves jungler.
I mean, getting spotted by pink wards when you have Razor Sharp is like annoying enough.
Yeah.
I used to get very frustrated whenever I play jungle games with you, and I'd be like, oh, I got spotted by a pink ward again.
That's the best thing. When you see an enemy jungler with Razor Sharp, you just plonk a ward in front of them, and it's like, ah!
That is what Tilt is made of, right there. Now, Joko, however, is going to try and look perhaps to get on a similar reaction out of Alphari. Gets the knock-up.
Yeah, Grey Health still available, pops it. And Fixed Skin still taking a bunch of damage, and Kaze is dropping low. Still has the ultimate, has to flash away. The ramped up tower damage Drops him low. One more would have been enough to finish him off, but pretty clean gank, honestly. And now going into the jungle. Impaler is bot side, so this blue wave goes over to them. Not sure what the blue timing is on their side, but Impaler isn't able to go for it right now. It still hasn't spawned, so nice gank out from Millennium, taking the early game lead. 500 gold ahead, and that's actually what we saw from RNB last game. Yeah,
it is very similar. And, you know, in that situation, I actually think you look at how the gank went top lane. Alphari was trying to be a little bit greedy and be able to sit in lane if he didn't die by popping the grey health earlier and hoping that Millennium didn't come under the turret for it.
Yeah.
Because he would have roughly had about a third of his health left and could have kind of realistically stayed in lane if the grey health replenished. He used it with about 300 or 400 health left remaining. If he'd have let it go deeper and deeper down into the health pool, gambled a bit more, I think he could have survived that.
And it's not like Mundo and Rek'Sai have bursts of damage that like really surprise you. It's like chunks and chunks, and then you can time it correctly. So definitely agree he could have held it on for a little bit longer. May have even taken Kaze with him. Yeah. Because it was one more tower shot before he went down. So yeah, perhaps, but definitely nitpicks in that situation.
Oh,
it's very difficult to judge underneath a tower dive like that. But Yoko looking for another gank in the top lane. Alphari being so pushed up to his tower, this will be a very difficult gank to get off unless he's going to wait there for a very long time.
I quite like this because they're trying to set up Kaze to be able to just sit in lane against Alphari in whatever circumstance. They want to get enough of a lead on their Mundo that nobody can deal with him, so when Alphari is trying to deny any kind of 1-3-1 setup, I mean, it's not so traditional to have a Dr. Mundo in that setup, but at least it's not going to happen like the last game, where Alphari got out of control and was just able to take down Kaze again and again and again, and just stop him from actually pushing.
This is a good point, actually, because we were talking so much about Alphari when we first started this series. Maybe he's going to be the next top laner. I'm going to hold that thought for a second as bot lane gets CC'd up. Tab's taking a bunch of damage coming in, but Impaler is there to counter gank. The Q comes out of flash as well. The auto's coming in. There's enough damage. Heaver's actually the one to pick up the kill. Subjugate was enough to tick down and take up the kill onto Masterwork. So 1-1 currently in the scoreline. Joko, how's he going to respond? Take away this pink ward in the jungle. That's way faster than Graves, and he'll be heading back into his own jungle.
Impaler even held on to collateral damage there. The exhaust went down fairly early on, wasn't able... Sorry, there was no exhaust. I was going to say it looked like there was an exhaust there for a minute, but at this point, Renegades just couldn't quite get the damage down onto Hans Sama, and held on to collateral damage. So Joko was looking for a gank in the bottom lane, but did not choose to go in. He's looking for the dragon now, actually. Should be able to get this. Not too difficult. That does have teammates coming as well, as Masterwork is going to join in.
Yeah. Joko will probably have to TP back after this. But go back onto the point about Alphari. This is two different playstyles we're now seeing from him. Before, it was like stopping the split push and then actually going for fights and being a damage dealer. He went for almost exclusively damage build. Now, he's on a tank. These are two completely different playstyles, and his role changes and the way he has to play the game, because he'll be using his ultimate to get into fights, he'll be carrying people. So if he performs well on both of those champions, he makes a real case for a well-rounded top laner, because very rarely do you get top laners who play multiple styles. It's usually you do one thing and you play carry top, so you're a really good tank top laner.
Kaze, not going to be in trouble. He's Mundo.
Yep.
Under his tower. There's very little you can do as a Graves and a Tahm Kench in that situation. Did get the ultimate out of him, though, so that is a small win. Problem is, Impaler was sat on a ward for that. Heaver, that's confidence.
That was very confident, especially with Dioko going onto this one to save the tunnel. Actually, I think it got cleared away there.
Yeah, it got cleared away, but if you start the
animation
tunnel, if you start the burrowing, you'll appear there anyway.
Indeed. Joko heading into the jungle now. Doesn't have smite, so we won't get the raptor buff, but he'll take away this camp regardless. Knew that Impaler was in the top lane. Looked like he may have actually just gone for a second gank there, because he's still in top lane. Mid lane though, Kadril gets dragged into the shockwave. Joko looking for the lockup, but Kadril was able to flash away, gets the ult and the flash, and doesn't have teleport. So Kadril in a pretty dodgy situation in the mid lane now. That's a nice culling onto Masterwork. Almost gets the full channel onto him. 60% of his health, but a binding in return. Masterwork pretty solid with those. I was seeing some really nice bindings last game as well.
Now, does Impaler avoid the vision? I think he avoided the ward. Oh, and the Vision has retreated as well. Hansama, if he gets dragged into a fight here, where's the pillar? That's what we're looking for. Black Shield comes out early. Can't get the crowd control, but it's top lane that the jungler could be a lot more effective.
Yeah, Alpha in this 1v2, I'm not sure he's going to get out alive. Has to pop the grey health, but what can he really do? Just a matter of who's going to pick up the kill. Boom, Kaze picks up the kill on the top lane against Alphari. There's aren't really explosive ganks, gotta be honest, but...
No, but Joko's having so much more success with his gank pathing in general than Impaler right now. And, you know, Impaler's playing the Graves. We were talking about how his early game burst is so significant. The problem is he's not finding targets outside of that one fight in the bottom lane, which the support ended up picking up the kill there for Hiva. So really, Joko's just snowballing this top side of the map a little bit better than Impaler is having his presence on the map. This is so much better out of Millennium in general. They've got good damage onto bottom tower. They've taken the top tower as well.
I would say a lot better. He's 2 levels ahead of Impaler. Actually, just dings 8 as I was saying that. But he's still ahead in levels. Now he goes for this blue buff. Oh, that actually hurts a lot. Impaler used his Q and just hit the wall where it tagged him there. That's actually a big deal in the jungle where it can actually misfire. But Joko will take it on the other side. The problem with Graves jungle in this situation is he needs his laners to actually supply the CC. Hansama backing off to his tower. A lot of damage coming in from Tabs. A double tap as well. Impaler looking for the gank. He comes in, doesn't actually tag him for the assist, and Tabs just trying to comes out with the culling. There was 2 teleports coming in from Kaze and Alphari, and both cancel and carry on trading in the top lane. Kaze now pops his own ultimate, chasing down Alphari. Now with Joko coming in as well, Alphari, can he actually get away? Spits Kaze back out, flashes behind his minion wave, try and dodge out these cleavers. Doesn't have to pop his grey health, so he will be getting a fair bunch of regen from that. But Joko putting a lot of pressure on the top lane.
Yeah, and this is the first gank really for Joko that hasn't gone well. Everything else has gone his way topside. They had the 2 kills onto the Mundo. This time though, Alphari with his flash, with that extra grey health that was available to him, didn't even have to use it. He was able to just walk back to his inner turret, and I don't really think there's any way Millennium we're going to try and dive him under that. Not enough damage to go through the Tahm Kench with the Spirit Visage at that point. And that really is a bit of a slowing down move coming out of Millennium, or at least forced out of Millennium from the Renegades. They take the bottom tower. It is now 1 tower apiece for these 2 teams. I wonder, are we going to get stalled like we did in the last game? It was roughly at this point in the game that it really began to trickle to a bit of a slower pace.
Well, I'm going to see these 2 teams kind of butt heads as they contest the vision. Joko trying to get Impaler there. Doesn't quite work out. But I want to go back to that point just before all that action happened. Impaler on Graves is finding it very difficult. Okay, I guess I don't get to talk about that as Joko gets called out in the jungle. Impaler taking a lot of damage in return. Kaze pushing down the mid lane. Alphari looking for the flank coming up here. Oh, and the binding doesn't quite connect. Either way, it's only Kaze who gets slowed down, and he's Mundo. He's not going to be going down in a hurry. Pops his own ultimate and will be full health once again. Hansama gets tagged by the Frost Queen's claim. Spooky Ghosts come down, but there's no engage really coming out. Tapped was thinking about heading into the mid lane, but goes into the top lane. Might be able to snag a turret while everyone is staring each other down in the mid lane.
Gotta be careful though that if the engage comes out from Millennium, that the Banditos don't get caught short with that Misfortune ultimate. That's gonna shred through them so much if it ends up landing, but Millennium will spread out. Tabs, can he get that top tower? Minions are dying and Mundo's on his way up there. No, that's not going to go down in Tabs' favor, but the bottom side of the map, 3 people. Oh, Cleaver into the flash forward.
Yeah, he saw Alphari coming up. That's the only reason he backed off. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to pick up the kill there. Still getting the flash from Mundo is a big deal. Hansama going up against his tower. Hiva, nice dodge out of the way of the masterwork. I think he was heading there anyway. Joko still hammering away at the turret. They take it down. Looking for the knock-up here onto Hiva. Not quite in range. And now Alphari and Tabs are going to take this turret in the top lane in response, but it's an outer turret versus an inner turret.
Yeah, that's a great trade for Millennium, and this is how you keep just that momentum going, is always taking more valuable objectives. Kaze, oh, it did manage to get both of the recalls stopped, whether it was manually or with damage. I think Tabs actually decided to stop his. Maybe it was Burning Agony, didn't quite see from the vision.
Oh, Kaze still in this 1v2, maybe able to take out Tabs, has to flash away before Kaze jumps away himself. Alphari should be able to pick up this kill, slowly chunking him down. And got him. 330 gold over to him, gets the shutdown as well, pretty nice. But Tabs had to burn his flash and his heal for that.
And it was taking up 2 people's time in the top lane. point. Now Millennium have gone from the bottom inner to Dragon, taken that, now they go mid-outer and take that as well. This is the kind of play that we've heard about the Millennium squad, where they're very decisive, very quick to work as a team, and end up taking multiple objectives.
Yeah, this is what we wanted to see. It's kind of cascading out of control now. Nice stop and recall from Handsama, who's just recalling just behind the wall. But yeah, definitely we're seeing Millennium flex their macro game muscles in this game. Have seen them go literally rotate really well. As you just mentioned, that play that they just made was pretty nice.
I see what you did. Please never do that again.
Yeah, sorry. Hiva is going to be taking away this pink ward. But all right, to go back onto that point, I wanted to say
the Impaler point. That was like 5 minutes ago. Yes. Okay. So, Pulse, why is this a problem for Impaler?
Because in this game stress, Graves finds it very difficult, one against Rek'Sai, because he can't just walk into his jungle because Tremor senses the thing. So he's able to track him. One of the biggest strengths of Graves is the fact he can duel most junglers right now, and additionally has a lot of damage. In this game, doesn't have a lot of CC. We saw him go into the bottom lane, but against Masterwork on Morgana, can't really gank that. We saw it, the flash came out, and that was it. Top lane, you have to stack up the stun to get it onto Kaze. Can't really do that either, and mid lane's a farm lane. So you can't really get those ganks off, and you need CC from your lanes because you're Graves, and you don't have CC.
Sweet. I'm glad we got that point out there. It's out, it's
Thanks,
in the
guys.
open.
Thank you for chilling out for a second in this game.
Good.
It was fantastic.
Thank
now you can resume fighting. Perfect. He will have to flash over the wall right into the open arms of Gyoko, who knocks him up, but there's no damage behind him. And Orianne's taking blue buff, but still a flash onto support is pretty nice to have, especially as Baron will be spawning in a minute, and Dragon still a little ways off.
I must admit, I got a little distracted by the hilarious animation that is Void Rush on Pool Party Rek'Sai with the jet ski. No jet ski required to get out of this situation, as there's enough health for them just to slowly waddle out for Millennium. But Millennium probably going to look to just group here, if I'm honest. Bottom lane, Cadril does have teleport.
And Hiva just have no way to get out of this one. Now the teleport coming in from RNB, but they don't really want to engage anymore. Handsama drops low, coming in with the Glitter Lance from the mid lane. But with one kill over to Millennium already, that's all they're going to take for now. The minion wave has been cleared out. They have a lot of wave clear on this team. Glitter Lance, Taz Piercing Light, and Impaler Q is a wave instantly gone. But Gyoko is able to duel him. Look how little damage he's taken as well. He's gone for the Cinderhulk and Deadman's Plate, meaning Impaler can't really touch him.
Yeah, that is a real difficult prospect to cut through, especially when what we were talking about earlier is once the Mundo, once the Rek'Sai start getting a couple of items of tankiness under them, there's no hyper carry to go alongside this Lulu and the Tahm Kench. So a composition that, if they fall behind, will have fairly low comparative damage is a problem for the Banditos. And now they're engaged on again.
The flank comes in and Tab's knocked up, but Gyoko has to jump away. He was already low to start the fight, but so much damage coming in from Pretty. And now the rest of the fight will ensue. Hiva's trying to zone the backline by himself, but he's only Trundle. Kaze is trying to push on towards Cadril. He'll be able to back off with the Whimsy. Impaler gets back into his jungle as well. Has to flash on top of the Glitter Lance. And Alfari now comes in to try and save his ally. Handsama jumps forwards. Bullet time comes out. Jukes out of the way of it, but he doesn't have flash, and he has nowhere to go. Kaze will just assist Handsama in picking up that kill. 3-0 over to Millennium. And they can do anything they want right now. Baron is even on the table for them.
This is going to be a Baron going over to Millennium when you look at this. So much health left on Gyoko and Kaze, and enough damage that's going to come from this misfortune just to take this out. This is a very early Baron, 21 minutes on the clock, but it was a great fight out from Millennium. You know, even at the beginning, Handsama wasn't in that engage, but Renegades Bandidos did not have enough damage to just get anywhere near a good fight. And that was just enough for Millennium to take it. And man, just this is an example of the problems with the composition the Banditos are running if they end up falling behind. Millennium, off their good macro play early, just had so much more available options to them, and the option to fight was the right one here. The damage that came out from Pretty in this fight, just so strong. Handsama was still holding his ult for this entire thing until now. There.
Nailed it.
Got it. They messed me up with a time thing. I'm blaming the observers.
Yeah, okay.
It looked like it was there.
Nice pillar. Actually knocks him out of the tunnel there. But wasn't going to get the engage regardless, 3 versus 1. However, the nice thing about this composition from Millennium and the fact that they're so far ahead in this game means the tanks can engage and they have such a big grace period before they really need to jump into the fight. Because, as you mentioned, Hansama wasn't even in that last fight until like 5 seconds in, and then he arrives and unloads onto RNB. The tanks are so tanky.
Yeah, and the problem with that really makes this difficult for the Banditos is you'd be looking to Hiva to just subjugate away so much of that resistance, so much of the tankiness from Millennium, but I mean, Hiva is 2 levels down on his opposite number. Masterwick is level 10, and Hiva's not able to sit in front of the damage that is coming from Millennium, so it means that you can subjugate somebody down, but if you can't actually output enough damage on the remaining tankiness, then the Trundle's not doing too much in that situation either, because he just ends up falling without doing too much more.
Yeah, and Alphari is comparatively not very tanky, even though he has the same items as Kaze. The fact that Hansama is so far ahead, the Pretty as well, and it's mixed damage versus Impaler and Tabs, who are both running AD, it's way harder to itemize against and way harder to just be tanky in this game.
What I will say, though, is even while getting so much pressure in the early game on Alphari, he is ahead on CS again by a fairly significant margin. So we're still seeing, even in a difficult effort, that Alphari is keeping up.
Yeah, Gyoko here has been caught in the jungle, but Hiva's
damage.
dropping low, and the shockwave comes out. The bullet time comes across and rips apart the back line. Tabs is able to get over the wall, kill the Misfortune, and also take the Dragon. This could be a big turning point over for RNB. None of them have dropped so far. Gyoko is pretty strong. He's still pretty tanky, down to 50%. Tries to get the snipe onto Cadril with his Prey Seeker, but that's a 2-0 and the Dragon over to RNB, and it's their first Dragon, so that was a pretty nice swing for them, but they are still very far behind, 6,000 gold.
Yeah, this could be the turning point, and keep your eye on Tabs as he goes over the wall, but I want to take a look. Looks like they interrupted Gyoko with his burrow there. Hiva dropped fairly low. Shockwave landed on 2. Where did the rest of the damage from the Banditos come from? Tabs goes over the wall, deals with Hansama. That's what we were expecting, but the rest of it, Masterwork just ends up falling because he just can't survive in that situation. Okay, that makes a fair amount of sense there for the Banditos. Nice little team fight for them. They were able to get themselves into a good, well, a better situation. Still looking dire for them. 6,000 gold down. Millennium still in the lead. Did also pick up the Baron while we were away.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. No,
So
21 minutes they picked up the Baron. Sorry. This is the end of their Baron buff.
Okay,
It's-
okay.
It's just that they hadn't died yet. The
it's
3
like-
remaining members hadn't died.
Okay, good. Good job we cleared that up.
Yeah, it's about to run out.
But yeah, in that last fight, Hansama, the fact that he was like completely separated from that fight, yes, he got a good bullet time down, but he never got any of the follow-up damage. Hiva has been caught out though, pops the ultimate, and also the face of the mountain shield on himself. The rest of the team may be pincered in here. Good pillar, but Gyoko should be able to get in range for a knock-up on someone. Kaze trying to get in range as well, flashes into the team, looking for the cleaver, doesn't manage to connect it. Impaler turns around, trying to get the damage down onto these tanks, slowly chunking them away, but they're just so tanky. And Pretty is able to support him over the wall as well with the ball. Alphari able to get in range, lands the tongue lash, and jumps after him as well. Impaler's there, tries to get the wall damage. Gyoko again hit by the tongue lash. Hansama pushing down the top lane while all that was happening. And after all that, it was just the tanks taking damage, really.
This is looking better and better for the Renegades Banditos. The longer this game seems to be going, they just have enough protection right now on this 2-item AD carry that they're able to output damage. The problem is, it takes so long to chunk through Gyoko and Kaze that I don't know if in a prolonged fight with those two being full health, I don't know whether that's going to be all that possible. Also, look at the lack of options when it comes to pushing for Renegades. They're not able to just keep moving forward, so it means they're always having to play reactively, and it's going to rely on Millennium making a bit of a mistake in the team fights that they pick here, or the pushes that they attempt. Now with the Baron buff not on Millennium anymore, it will make the decision-making process a little bit more difficult, and they have started to run out of outer towers. Only the top kind of tier 2 tower remains.
That's kind of the big problem for Millennium right now, is they can't really push without Baron because the minions just don't last long enough against his composition because of the aforementioned wave clear that they have. So they're really just playing around that Baron. However, last time we saw them, they just straight up went out in a fight so that they could secure it. Now, I'm not sure if they just straight up win because we saw the fight at Dragon. If you get the positioning on them, especially with the wall damage from Impaler, they may be able to pick up a fight. Their backline is very squishy while their front line is very strong. If there's a flank off by maybe Alphari carrying someone, maybe they can get a fight into the Baron. So it's not as a game-set and match as we kind of thought it was before.
Yeah, and I think it kind of hinges on Hans Sama. And if Hans Sama falls like in the Dragon fight, and a lot of the damage just kind of disappears from Millennium, does make it so much more difficult. Now Millennium looking for that top tier 2 tower. Wave clear comes through, next wave will join. Joko is looking for the flank around the back. Is there much follow-up? I guess it would come from that Misfortune ultimate. Ult has been popped by Dr. Mundo.
And the culling as well to clear out the minion wave. Joko is continuing to look for this flank, but yeah, now the tower comes down. Kaze is able to tank up the turret regardless, and Pretty, with Hans Sama, can take out that tower. Baron is spawning in 50 seconds, and RNB really can't push out of their base to secure vision right now, with Millennium in that side of the jungle, while Millennium can completely sweep the area and put down all of their wards. So, what is RNB's play? I think they just need to stick around, maybe wait for the recalls and try and secure Baron vision.
I think they probably have to just try and dance at this point around Baron, because I don't think you can really secure the vision. Yeah. And there aren't too many objectives that you can try and force that have the same weight as Baron at this point in the game.
They also have decent disengage tools for a dance,
so
that may be their option right now.
Because especially with mid-outer being the tier 3, or tier 1, sorry, I mean, you can't, that's not really worth taking while Baron's available. If you can somehow push up because they're on Baron, well, they're getting Baron. So that's not a worthwhile trade for Renegades whatsoever. Now Renegades will head up towards the Baron and kind of and ah about it. Sorry, Millennium. Umming and ahhing about it. They've got the pink wood there. They know the vision control is already established. Tubbs is just over half health as well, so that is a bit of a problem too.
This is almost becoming an impossible situation for RNB, and now the engage may even come out from Millennium as well. Kaze is leading up the charge. Alphari does get CC'd up, looking for a knock-up perhaps from Joko. He's not quite able to get in range, but Hiva taking a lot of damage on the front lines already. He needs to try and get in range on one of the tanks and subjugate them, so maybe they can chunk one out. Joko taking turns on these tanks to try and find the right engage for the lineup of Millennium. Cage backing off to his tower as well. The minion wave is getting cleared out. And where does Millennium go now? They are in such a dominating position. They have complete control over the map.
Yeah, they have complete control. And look at Tabs in the top side as well. Now Millennium swing down to the bottom side jungle, looking maybe to go for this dragon. This will be their third of the game. Oh, Impaler and Joko were trading back and forth there. But this game has had a lot more dragon focus than we've seen in any European LCS game in recent times. Games have kind of been over as we were talking. Joko a little caught, forced to flash.
That's big for the following fight. Joko without his flash as the jungler as well. Impaler has his own. But still, it's really just down to a pick at this stage. People find it very difficult to find a good engage onto either team. RNB really can't just go in through the front door because Millennium's backline will tear them apart. Millennium can't engage on RNB because of the disengage tools, Glitterland, the pillar as well. So we're in a standoff until someone gets picked. But Joko did have his flash.
Yeah, at this point, Millennium, they are still pressuring, but you can feel it boiling up. Oh, Cadril nearly caught out. Joko, there were two of them there, though. Millennium are going to turn for the Baron. If they can get this, I think this would just about secure them the game. I don't think the wave clear is strong enough.
It's going down really fast. And now
what can Renegades do?
He hasn't even started channeling teleport. Now the culling comes out. Kaze is blocking a lot of this damage. The Glitterlands comes in as well. Impaler with the ultimate doesn't quite secure it. Joko is the one to get it. And now Kaze's in the back lines. Oh, a huge shockwave and a follow-up as well. Can you say wombo combo? And now Alphari, there's nothing he can do without a team behind him. Tabs is like, team, where are you? And he has to slink back to his base. This should certainly be game for Millennium.
It certainly will be at this point with the Baron buff after the big team fight combo that came out of Millennium. This game and this series is going to 1 game apiece, and we said it was going to be fairly close. But man, this best of 5 looks like it could tip on a knife edge at any point.
Yeah, this could not get closer as Millennium close in for their first win of this series. The first Nexus turret goes down. Tabs is trying desperately to get some damage down, but it's not going to happen. Maybe he can increase his stat line on the damage down. Hiva comes in as well, gets their pillar up, but his tower will be going down. Maybe he can pick up a kill, but the Nexus itself has been opened up. However, RNB coming in and finally get their fight, but the tower and the inhib and the Nexus all fall, and that will be the game.
That will be the game. That was so much better out of Millennium when you look at their focus on the game and how